We all crave validation. It's a human experience. Everybody wants to feel loved, to feel worthy. The problem is when we depend on it. When a compliment decides your confidence, when a text back determines your self-worth, when you need someone else to say, "You're doing great," before you believe in it yourself. That's when validation turns into a form of control, not by them, but by your own fear of not being enough. Here's the truth though, this doesn't make you weak. Like I mentioned, it's human because we've all been taught since we were young to look outside of ourselves for approval. Gold stars, good grades, parents' praise, social media likes. We've essentially wired our brains to make that a need in order to feel worthy and to feel safe. You can always change that though. That doesn't have to be your reality, and that's what we're going to get into today. When you crave validation, what you're really searching for is certainty, a sense that you're okay, that you're safe, that you matter, that you're doing the right thing. And yeah, a lot of people may say that social media kind of brings this up for a lot of people because we're chasing likes, positive comments, comparing ourselves to others, and needing that dopamine hit in order to feel seen and to feel like we're wanted. But this problem with validation doesn't necessarily start only with social media. This can start as young as childhood. Maybe you grew up with parents that only praised you when you performed, getting good grades, behaving perfectly, or achieving something. Your brain essentially learned that love has to be earned and you have to behave in a certain way, even if it's incongruent with yourself, in order to get others to love you. And as an adult, then that warps into, if they don't approve of me, then I'm not enough. It's a coping mechanism for the pain of not being seen, heard, or loved as we are. So when somebody compliments you or you get a like on Instagram, boom, you feel high and your confidence goes up. And then on the other side, somebody criticizes you and that just drops back down and you spiral. So that is not confidence. That isn't really building your self-worth because you are essentially outsourcing your confidence to others. Here's the empowering part though. Once you see the pattern, you can start to rewire it. So how do we rewire our self-worth? Through micro moments of self-trust. So what does this mean? Every time you validate your own emotions, I feel hurt, and that makes sense. Every time you make a decision without asking 5 other people, every time you say no, even if that disappoints someone, you're rewiring your brain from dependency and toward internal safety. That's what true self-worth is. You're teaching yourself and your mind, your subconscious, that I can be okay even if I'm not approved of. Now that's freedom. That's the piece we're all chasing under every like, every compliment, every achievement. And a quick note on why external validation can be so sticky. It gives your brain a dopamine hit. It feels good now, then it fades. So you chase the next like, text, or approval from somebody. That's the endless loop when you don't rely on your own internal validation and you are relying on others to validate you. The fix isn't more approval from others, it's approving yourself and validating yourself. So you're training your brain to pair dopamine with your own evidence, not someone else's reaction. Because here's the thing, and I have been there because I was depressed in my teenage years, probably from when I was 16, 17, for about 3 to 4 years. And I relied on everybody else's validation in order to feel like I was loved. And that can be a slippery slope because, like I said, if you are outsourcing your confidence to others, your confidence is down here. So if you need somebody to give you a compliment or to like you or to say something nice or to do an action in order for you to validate yourself, Yeah, that can slowly climb up, but as soon as someone ghosts you or criticizes you, you come crashing back down and you spiral because you're not really confident. You're depending on others in order to build that fake confidence in yourself. And so you need to break that pattern, because if not, you're going to continue to rely on everybody else while never learning how to truly accept yourself and validate your own emotions. So here's a nightly practice that you can do for 30 days. Try this for 30 days. Be consistent. Just do it right before bed every night. Before you go to sleep, on a piece of paper, write 3 self-validations. Keep them specific and behavioral. So things that no one else may notice, but that they matter to you. Here are 3 examples. I wanted to people please today, but I still said no. I gave a presentation in front of my colleagues, even though I felt anxious the entire time. Instead of doom scrolling on my phone, I put my phone down and went outside for a walk. So why does this work? You're rewiring the reward pathway so that pride comes from internal wins. Over time, your baseline confidence will begin to rise, and other people's opinions move from life or death to just interesting data. You're no longer trying to seek approval from the outside, but looking within yourself and reflecting, what are things that I've noticed that I did for myself, and I'm gonna validate and celebrate those wins. Another thing that's really important to do is accurate reflection and validating your own emotions. If I had $1 for every time I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy for feeling something, I would have enough money to fund my own therapy. Let's be real. We do this all the time. We want people to co-sign our emotions before we believe them ourselves. And a lot of the times we think that we're just being honest when we beat ourselves up for what we feel. We say things either out loud or to ourselves, I'm so dramatic. I shouldn't feel this way. Am I being too sensitive? I'm overreacting. But that isn't honesty. That's actually self-invalidation. It's the moment where you gaslight yourself out of your own emotions and then almost start creating shame and guilt for feeling the way you feel. Every emotion is valid, but every emotion is also yours and it's your responsibility. So it's up to you to learn how to process them, understand them, and manage them. So if you're seeking emotional validation from someone else, how's that going to help you build your emotional intelligence? How is that going to help you trust what you're feeling more? So when you're constantly looking for that emotional validation and outsourcing it to other people, deep down, you've taught yourself, my feelings can't be trusted unless somebody else gives me the okay and lets me know it's okay to feel this way. So it's not just craving attention from others. It's losing faith in your own perception of how you feel and the world around you. So there's actually a practice that psychologists have called accurate reflection. It's the practice of noticing what you're feeling and then describing it without judgment or exaggeration. So think of it as emotional mindfulness. You're not trying to fix your feelings or make them logical. You're just making them visible to yourself. So instead of saying, for example, I'm such a loser, nobody wants to hang out with me, you pause and you say to yourself, I feel lonely and hurt. It all started when my friends canceled on me last minute. My chest feels heavy, and so maybe there's some disappointment there too. So you see the difference? It's not weakness. It's just being vulnerable and being aware of what you're feeling without being judgmental about it. You're labeling your internal state accurately, which does 2 powerful things. 1, it activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and regulation. So it helps your emotions stop spiraling. And 2, it rebuilds self-trust. Because every time you name your emotion correctly, you are teaching yourself and your subconscious, I can rely on myself to understand me. My emotions are valid. I don't need for somebody else to validate them in order to accept them. It turns your inner voice from a critic to an observer. And that shift alone can change everything. But here's the biggest thing. You can do these practices, you can do accurate reflection, and you can write down 3 things each day for 30 days that help you self-validate. But, and this is a big but, do you have an identity gap? The identity gap is the difference between your public persona and your private persona. So public is who you show yourself as to the world or to different people, and then your private persona is who you truly are at your core. This is your authentic self. If your public persona is curated and inauthentic compared to your private persona, your true authentic self, your mind is living in constant tension because there is a gap between who you truly are and the person that you're presenting towards people. You can't feel at peace because you're essentially living 2 lives, or maybe even more than 2 lives. Maybe you're living 3 or 4. You act a different way and you bottle yourself up. That is exhausting, and it's not your fault. We all learn to build a mask. We tone down our opinions so that we don't offend anyone. We bottle up our emotions so that we don't seem too much. We pretend that we're confident even when we're insecure and feeling scared. But this mask comes at a cost. Every time you hide, you're teaching your brain that your real self is not safe, that your true self is not accepted. So the true healing starts when you start closing that gap. When you start saying, this is who I am, this is what I want, even if somebody disapproves of it. Confidence isn't about liking yourself all the time. You are gonna have your ups and downs. It's about being with yourself and accepting yourself unapologetically, recognizing the greatness about you and also recognizing your blind spots and the things that you need to work on. When your inner and outer world match, you are reinforcing emotional safety and self-trust. So if you're constantly seeking validation from others, whether it's from your romantic relationships, family, friends, coworkers, but you're not even being your true self, you're acting a way that you think you need to be in order to feel accepted or fit in, then what does that validation even do? Because they are validating somebody who isn't even the true you. Do you understand how warped that is and how that can lead to like this constant cycle of self-criticism, self-doubt, self-hate? It's because the person that's being validated isn't even authentically you. If you are dealing with this and you recognize that no, you're not being your true authentic self, you need to take the steps to understand, who are you? What are your values? Who am I truly at my core when nobody's around? What am I passionate about? If I didn't need approval or confidence from others, what would that look like? What would I look like? You need to start asking yourself these types of questions in order to even start breaking out of this external validation, because you need to be comfortable in your own skin. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because that was me. When I was a teenager, I was constantly seeking validation from others. If a friend canceled on me last minute, it would be heartbreaking because it would just reaffirm to myself what I believed, which was that I didn't matter, that nobody cared, that I was a loser. And the person that I presented in front of everybody else, it was like different flavors of Natasha, but not the real me, because I felt like if people saw how sensitive, how emotional I was, how anxious I was, my weird quirks, then they wouldn't want anything to do with me. I am living proof that it does not bring you self-love to be living incongruent with who you truly are, because I tried to do that for several years and it did not work out. It just made me hate myself more because I felt like no one really knew me, and the people who liked me, I wasn't sure if they would really like me for who I am, or if they liked this version of me that I was just presenting to everybody. It's truly exhausting. So before you can even get to any exercises to grow that inner self-validation, you need to make sure that you are comfortable standing in your true self. Because if that gap is still there, it's going to take a lot more work, and none of these exercises will really stick. When you start validating yourself, you stop living life like you're in an audition. You stop chasing applause from people who were never meant to be your judges, because no one else can see the full story. Only you know the battles you fought to be here and your inner struggles. Nobody else knows that more truly than you do. So give yourself credit. Self-validation isn't about arrogance or being full of yourself. It's about wholeness, feeling whole, feeling complete with yourself. It's how you stop performing for others and living in peace with who you are. And when you finally get that, you will truly feel that different. The me today is so different from the me of 10, 15 years ago, because I don't need to ask if, am I being too sensitive? Because I can step back and recognize my own emotions. I don't need to ask for approval or acceptance in order to do something that I'm passionate about or that I love, because I trust myself. I validate myself. Once you start validating yourself, you'll see what true confidence feels like, because you're no longer, like I said, outsourcing your confidence to other people. You don't have this shaky foundation that you've built, constantly needing to seek approval of others for your emotions, for your appearance, for if you're making the right decision or not, because you've got your own back and you've learned to rebuild that trust in yourself. And if you really want to understand more about your emotions, how to become aware of them, how to manage them, and understand how that can also help you understand other people's emotions better, I have a video where I talk about what emotional intelligence is all about, so that you can continue building your confidence and that trust within yourself. I'll see you there, and thanks for watching.